you can tell I'm not really good at this. I think if I weren't running for mayor, I'd vote for Godfrey because he sounds so good.
Okay. Recently, property taxes in Weber County jumped quite a bit, causing a record number of assessment challenges. In what ways would your administration handle this property tax increase?
After we cry, I guess. I mean, these are really tough issues, property tax reassessments. Nobody likes to see their taxes go up. But the primary responsibility the sole responsibility for property tax assessments happens at the county level. The Weber County assessor has that responsibility. And they're really bound by state law. There need to be changes to the system. The primary reason is, as I mentioned in the beginning, we have lowered property taxes 3 times, actually 4. I got to keep throwing that in. We actually lowered them 4 times, but one of them was small. The challenge is nobody believes it. When I go to somebody and say, we lowered your property taxes 3 times, they said, no, you didn't. My taxes went up. Go look at my tax bill. It's not obvious to the taxpayers when an elected official actually reduces your taxes. I have to get an official letter from the state to prove that we lowered your taxes. And part of the problem is we're only one of the 17 line items on your tax bill, and that's the only one that I have control over. So while Ogden City has lowered taxes, other entities have raised them. And so it's true that property taxes for most people, well, I think everybody, have gone up. But the problem is you don't know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are often because you're just looking at the bottom line. There are changes that can and I believe should be made to the state law to make this easier for all of us because we want to reward elected officials who lower taxes. We want that to be a great incentive so that it's a lot easier for them to get reelected when they've lowered your tax bill. So the state law can change to make that more obvious to all of us. The other thing that they can do is they can make it so your taxes are frozen. So when you buy your home, your value is assessed and your property tax number is assessed. So if you're paying $1,000, no matter how long you live in your home, you're going to continue to pay $1,000 unless you vote to have your taxes raised or unless an entity goes through a public, open process and says, I'm going to raise your taxes and gives you a chance to come in and talk to them about it. So your taxes are frozen. Regardless of what happens to your home value, your taxes are frozen as long as you own your home. You sell your home, somebody else buys it. At that point, they reappraise the home and your taxes would go up. It may be $2,000 because there's been 10, 15 years of reappraisals happening that would bump up the rate higher. That's a change that can be made to state law. It's much more complicated than this, but it's something that I'm fighting for. In fact, we've already had a cottage meeting with a group of neighbors and we talked about this very issue. We asked them to give us ideas on how it could work. A lot of them had lived in other states where they had other ways that property taxes were assessed. And so we've asked them to give us that information. We're working closely with our legislators here. We're feeding the feedback we get from the citizens to the senators and the local representatives so that they can have that feedback. And we're going to push hard this year to see some property tax reform in the state of Utah. I think in the long run it will mean lower taxes for everybody because we can create an incentive for elected officials to lower taxes.
Very good, and I hope that it works because I think that's the biggest complaint I hear when I walk the streets is, I want you to do something about my taxes. But the one thing that I think we need to discuss is an open approach. We need to determine what is it we need for our city to make it run. What do we need for our city to be able to go forward and have safe sidewalks for our kids to walk to school on, safe neighborhoods, good schools. And a lot of you in this room, if you're Ogden residents, you've just put out $93.5 million, I think it is, for brand new schools in Ogden. We never hear about that side of it. We only hear what it costs. We don't ever understand what it's going to do for our students. I've heard that what I'm seeing here, too, in the neighborhoods is that we're having speculators come to Ogden to buy property because they see this as a boon to us, and so they want to see a turnover, and they are holding on to their property as renters. I'd like to see that the neighborhoods are stabilized so that we don't see quick property owners.
I don't have anything else. I know. You can go on. I don't have anything else.
All right, question 4. One issue that every American city has is crime. Given the scarcity of resources, some crime will almost always likely exist. Would your administration implement any specific goals for crime reduction? If so, what process would your administration undertake to determine how to best allocate resources to meet those goals and assess the efficiency of how the resources are allocated?
In my opinion, I'm going to get the hang of this. In my opinion, it's really a community issue. It's whether we feel safe in our homes or not. When I walk the streets, I hear people say to me, I'm afraid to let my kids walk to the library. I hear people say, I'm afraid to go to the mall at night, or whatever it happens to be. But if the perception is that they don't feel safe, then I think they aren't safe. So I see that violent crime in Ogden is twice the state average, and we rank third in the state. And I think that's totally unacceptable. I think as a community, with a community effort, with lots of input from a lot of different people, a lot of different resources that we know are available, that we can come up with a plan that would make our neighborhood safe. I don't care if it's neighborhood watch. I don't care if it's colors of success, which we should implement more in our schools so that we can stop the gang crime to begin with. But, if you don't feel safe, I think you're not safe. I know that in Ogden City, in the year that I've been on the council, we're 14 officers down. And every time I hear another new plan that's coming forward, I say, all right, we're down 14 officers, so where are we going to get the 6 new for this week? Or if it's 3 months from now, where are those other 6 going to come from? I also know that we've been patrolling the mall site down there 24/7 now for the last 4 months at a total of $40,000 a month. And my question is, wouldn't we better be served? I'd like that in my neighborhood 24/7. Wouldn't we be better served if we hired competent officers, if we determined what it is they need to stay in Ogden? Can they see the benefits of promotion? Can they have all the training they need, all the supplies they need, everything that they need to make sure that they feel safe in the job they do? Traffic officers can write a lot of tickets, and that's a lot of income for Ogden City. But it certainly isn't helping our citizens. Our citizens are afraid. They need to have the comfort of knowing somebody is going to come to them and find out what it is they need. How do we do that? We have to communicate with each other. It's a very simple plan.
There's 2 sides to reducing crime. One is to do all you can to prevent it in the first place. And we have some great entities that are working on the front end to do intervention, to try to help the kids get off onto a safe track. And those programs are great. We need to continue to support those. But once you have failure, once there's a kid or an adult that's decided they're going to be criminals, the answer is zero tolerance. If you look around the country at what's worked, zero tolerance works excellent. So the way we have to do that is we have to have more boots on the ground. We've added 20% more to our police department. 6 more are going to start in November. And I'm glad to hear that there's a desire to see the vacancies be moved more expeditiously, because the noose around our neck that keeps us to having more officers is something that the council can help control. If we let go of the Civil Service Commission, we could be full all of the time and do continuous hiring. So the answer is more officers and zero tolerance.
I think zero tolerance is something everybody would like. I'd like it in my neighborhood. But I also think if we don't have the resources, we don't have officers that are willing to come to Ogden and work, they don't have a way of being promoted into the system, they don't see a future in the job they have in Ogden, I think that's a serious issue for our police department. I think we have a high poverty rate of 20% in Ogden. We know that all these are single-parent families without fathers. We know about the high school dropout rate. All these enter into factors that we need to be as a community looking at.